Well, hello everyone, and you are in another episode of UnabridgedMD, and I'm Dr. Isabelle Amig, your host and your friendly rheumatologist. Before we start, and I have a treat for you, before we start, just an announcement saying that I'm soon going to increase the prices at the UnabridgedMD practice. Currently, we have the founder's price, which means that every year, if you do consider rheumatology on a yearly basis, and if you want to be seen in the practice every year, if you start now, you would have a founder's price, which would, not move much over the years, maybe with inflation and so on. If you wait, it's going to be a lot more expensive, and I would love for you to enjoy the founder's price. So anyway, that was just a little thing so that no one is surprised. And also, if you are interested in and you are in Colorado, the TEDx Breckenridge is coming up on September 30th. I am so humbled to be part of this group of incredible human beings. They are creating a group, they are creating an event that is going to be absolutely remarkable. I was supposed to go at a festival, and I will tell you, it's been a year. I've been enjoying this, like imagining that I was going to this festival, and I have actually just decided to cancel the whole festival for me, since I want to enjoy this TEDx Breckenridge to the fullest. And honestly, don't come for me, come for the other people who are talking, because it is unbelievable. It's going to be so good. And you can look at TEDxBreckenridge.com, and then you can get you can get a coupon if you put speaker support as in caps. You will get quite a bit of discount. So anyway, check it out. All right, and now to our episode. So I am so excited to have Dr. Pospos with us, and she is a psychiatrist, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. And we're going to talk about her TEDx, which has done a lot of waves, and which I'm absolutely certain everyone would love. And you're going to see why we're talking about it, because it's about procrastination and wanting to be perfectionist. So this is perfect for everyone. Dr. Pospos, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about you. Why did you choose psychiatry? What is it that you like about psychiatry? And why a TEDx?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Dr. Amik, for having me today. Such a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it. So, hi, everyone. Like Dr. Amik said, I'm a psychiatrist based here in California, and more specifically, a perinatal and sports psychiatrist. So why psychiatry? I've always been drawn to psychiatry because I like to solve puzzles. That's one. And I think in psychiatry, we have the privilege to kind of delve into, a person's story, the very deepest of their story, and kind of put together pieces of their lives in such a way that could help them more. So I think that's such a big privilege that I really enjoy. Now, why perinatal psychiatry? I'm actually a mom of two under two, a new mom of two under two. So during my first pregnancy and with my first daughter, I actually really see firsthand how motherhood, especially new motherhood, has a lot of unique challenges, and it could be a very difficult time or season in our life in terms of adjustment. So that's why I think why not delve more or focus more into this specific field of perinatal psychiatry. And on the other hand, why sports psychiatry? It's a bit unrelated, but actually back in the day, and I mean way back in the day, I was also a student athlete. So similarly, I've seen a lot of the unique challenges, the unique situations that athletes face. So again, I thought, why not help serve this specific group of athletes by focusing more into sports psychiatry.
It's funny. So I actually see the association between the two. And tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm not an athlete, but I'm trying to push myself rock climbing, and it's been very, very hard. And some people really not make fun of me. They are puzzled. They're like, Isabelle, you've went through stage 4 cancer and you had no issues with it. And you are afraid to push when it comes to rock climbing. So it's really interesting. And so I understand the idea of just like pushing and having your mind in the between.
Mhm.
And as you were talking about why you chose psychiatry in perinatal as well as in sports, I was thinking, no, it does make sense. As a mom, you want to be perfect. You want to be perfect for your kids. You want to be perfect for the people around you. And you judge constantly. You judge yourself. You're judging, you feel like you feel judged. It's never enough. It's never good enough. It's impossible to be perfect mom. Like a perfect mom is probably a horrible mom, right? And I was thinking about this, and it's almost the same than in sports, right? Like you're pushing and you're trying to be the best, but there's just no end at where being the best is. So I get it. It's actually very interesting as you were mentioning it. I kind of get it. So, well, your talk is about perfectionism and procrastination. Tell us a little bit from your expertise why those two end, right? Perfectionism, procrastination. Like why those two together?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much, also, Dr. Amik, for putting that so beautifully. I got goosebumps when I heard how you picture motherhood, I think, so accurately, which really resonates with my experience as well. So thank you. And in terms of perfectionism and procrastination, so as you can imagine, in my practice, I see a lot of folks who also strives to be perfect, right? A lot of students who wants to get the perfect kind of resume for their career, a lot of moms, like you said, who wants to be perfect for their kids, a lot of professionals who want to be perfect at work, just to achieve those next milestones. And what I've seen is this perfectionism tendencies leads, of course, to anxiety, to depression sometimes, but also to procrastination. So we tend to wait for all the stars to align literally before making steps, even though perhaps we've always have that one goal, to change something in our lives. So we always perhaps are hesitant, wanting to for all the situations to be perfect, for all the timing to be perfect, for the timing to be optimal first before making that first move. So that's why I wanted to highlight that perhaps a little bit more in my TEDx, because even though it's maybe less talked about, it is still very common occurrences out there.
And this speaks to me and spoke to me so much because I think there's a lot of, and we call them type A personality. I think, I've called myself type A personality. I probably am a type A, but it doesn't actually matter. I think at the end of the day, it's always this idea of like, how much do I push so that I'm still not hurting myself, right? And I'm talking at work, in academics, but I'm also talking in, sports or motherhood, right? And at the same time, well, I completely see this idea of like, if it's not perfect, you just wait and you kind of like, you're like this. And it's funny, it happened to me recently. So I have my own TEDx coming up, right? And I'm terrified because it's like a subject that is so important to me, how we should, see diseases differently. And that we shouldn't fight them, but rather learn from them. And it's so important to me because I really think that it's this mindset that changed my life and allowed me to not be stressed about my own cancer. Again, stage 4, scary, yet I was leaning into what I could do, which was this experience. And I'm scared. And it's funny, right? Like when I had this cancer, I had to do it. I had to take the steps. So I was doing it and I wasn't perfect. And, I was trying my best, right? But with this TEDx, I'm just so scared that it's not going to be perfect. And so then I'm like, oh, so I remember like for 2 weeks, I couldn't touch it. I was just like, So I hear you, like it speaks to me so much. And the other thing, and I really want to have your opinion on this, is that I can see how it affects our patients. I mean, how often do we see patients, and I'm sure in psychiatry the same way that we see it in rheumatology, and it's almost like they give up because they're like, my body is not perfect, so I'm just going to give up.
Mhm.
And you're like, no, 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 you need help. It needs help. Your body is your friend. It needs help. What do you see this? Like, I'm sure you see this. Like, tell us some examples of stories of either mom or either athletes where you're like, well, just taking this step forward, realizing that there's no perfection. Tell us about it.
Yeah, yeah, such a good observation. Definitely, one thing that comes to mind when you mentioned that is perhaps we in psychiatry we have this concepts, right, of distorted thinking, sort of automatic but distorted thoughts process, and one of them is all or nothing. So, for example, when we notice a certain flaw, it doesn't have to be big, but nothing is perfect, right? So everything in general would have some flaw or some imperfections, so to speak. But with all of nothing thinking pattern, then we would just hold on to that and make it all or nothing, in a sense of, if it's not perfect, it's not all, then it's nothing. Then it's the opposite. There's no in between. There's no spectrum. There's no kind of compromise in that way. So yes, definitely, it could be very common as well.
That's so interesting. I mean, I just see myself all of the time in this. It's really interesting. And I was just thinking how you're clearly a psychiatrist, because normally I don't talk that much. I mean, I talk with my friends, but like in my podcast, I don't talk as much as you're making me talk. I mean, you're not making me talk. That's like where it's funny. Guys, this is what a psychiatrist do. They know how to listen. So, well, I really like it. It really is an interesting concept, which is to get out of this mindset of out of nothing. What do you think? What do you think can make us switch?
$1 million question. So it's very difficult, right, in practice. But I think some of the strategies perhaps that could help is, like you mentioned, number one, those mindset switch, rephrasing this automatic mindsets, right, which is really tricky, because not only that, we have to kind of catch it in the moment, be aware of it first, and then once we do, then take the next step, the additional step, to kind of reframe it. So one mindset piece that I personally found helpful is to focusing on the process instead of the outcome. I think Dr. Carol Dweck is in one of the famous books out there, really put it into a very understandable concepts. So focusing on the process rather than outcomes, and then try to pause and objectively think of, for example, evidence for or evidence against your assumption. And what I mean by that is, let's say, to your example about the TEDx speech, right? When I wrote my TEDx speech, let's say I think, oh, this is not perfect. This is not good at all. I don't want to work on it anymore because I don't think it's going to be that good. I don't think it's going to be good enough. But looking back, what I would advise myself to do is to pause and really perhaps list down, take a minute, grab a pen and paper, list down, why do I think that way? What's the evidence that support my assumption? So assumption of my TEDx is never going to be good enough. On the flip side, on the other side of the paper, what's the evidence against it? What's the evidence that support that won't support it? Meaning that pointed to the idea that my TED would be good enough. And then for me personally, because I like to, really delve into evidences, logical consequences, things like that, having both on paper and the act of actually verbalizing it and writing it down really helped to see it side by side and kind of switch even just a little bit my mindset towards that direction, reframe it just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. It's funny. That's how I have my patients quit smoking. Look at the positive, look at the negative. What would you miss? What would you gain, and etc. And just until it's clear. So that's such an interesting point of view. Coming back to the sports medicine, because I think I'm really fascinated, and we're using sports here as if we were patients, but I think it's such an interesting group, right? Like people who are in sports and are really trying to push. Mm-hmm. Because clearly there's a mindset there. Clearly you can stop yourself from getting to the best
Mhm.
of who you are just with your mind. How do you get there? Like, how do you, and I'm sure everyone is very different. Everyone is very, yeah, there's an individuality in each, but what is the points that you see that are very common for everyone? And as we answer, we listen to your answer, everyone, I would just recommend that we all listen to this, even if we are not people who exercise or are, particularly good in sport, and just think of it like as some sort of other issues in our life that we're trying to achieve. So whether it's a condition that we have, whether it's some experience with kids, anything, right? Like all experiences are the same. So tell us, Dr. Pospos.
Do you mean the common trait for those kind of resiliency,
Yeah, how do you push? How does someone in sports, that's, as an athlete, push when maybe they don't know how to push anymore?
I see. That's a very good question. So I would say perhaps some of the common threads that I've seen is one, focusing on the end goal, right? Meaning those delayed gratification. So with sports, and like you mentioned, with other things too, other goals in our lives, a lot of times, if not all, or most perhaps I should say, the goal is a bit further out, meaning we won't get that gratification instantly for the most part, right? And sometimes it's really tricky because we don't get that kind of reassurance or verification instantly. It's really hard to keep pushing for something that could feel like it's so far away, like the light is, at the very, very, very end of the tunnel. So I would say that one common thread would be that ability for delayed gratification and just focusing on the further goal, would be one. And the second thing that I would say is where the motivation's coming from, meaning we could be motivated internally, right? Or we could be motivated externally by outside pressure, social pressure, parental pressure, perhaps, or of course, a combination of both, somewhere in the spectrum. So what I've noticed, if we are motivated or we have a big component of internal motivation, that would also help, especially during the tough times, during the difficult times.
It's almost coming back to the why.
Yes,
Why are we doing that? Yeah.
exactly. And not just everyone else's why, right? But our own why specifically too.
Yeah, this is really powerful. And so you're basically asking us to pause, to take a pen if needed be, or just, start at like some sort of meditation, just pause and look at what is real, what is constructed, and remind ourselves of why we are doing something. Because if we are not aligned to our why, there's no point of continuing. Is that am I understanding this right?
Yes, in a sense that if we're not aligned to our why, perhaps we could always push, but it's going to be way more difficult, right? Because what's the point of doing all this if we don't truly believe, so to speak, in that goal? And two, it'll be just more motivating to be in touch, be in line, and realize, be aware, be fully aware, and committed to our personal goal in that way. And then one thing that I would like to add also that I found helpful is perhaps when we take that moment to try to dive in and find our why, perhaps asking ourselves why multiple times would help. And what I mean by that is, let's say I found my why. For example, why I want to be why I study hard in school. I want to be a doctor, a psychiatrist, right? But then perhaps it'll be after that first step, it'll be more helpful to ask why for that first line. So why do I want to be a psychiatrist? Let's say I want to help people. Why do I want to help people? And go further until, dare I say, you cannot answer it anymore. And that further down answer would be perhaps more in line with your real, quote unquote, your core value, your core purposes.
Oh, that's such a cool exercise. So asking the why. So why do you want to become a rheumatologist? I want to help people. Why do I want to help people? Well, it makes me feel good. Why does it make me feel good? Well, I like to see patients get better. Why do I like that? Okay, I love this. Okay, that's really, really cool. So Dr. Pospos, where can we find you? And most importantly, what is the title of your talk on TEDx so that everyone can watch it? Because highly, highly recommended.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amik. So I have my website is Lifestyle Telepsychiatry. I'm in private practice and I practice here fully by telehealth in California. You can find me in Instagram or social media with the same handle as well, Lifestyle Telepsychiatry. And the easiest way to get into my TED Talk is actually just putting my name on the YouTube search, either Pospos or Sarah Pospos, it would show up. And the title, though, if you want to look further into it, is Why Better is the Solution to Perfectionism.
That's so good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pospos. I think there was so much to learn from all of the nuggets that you've told us. So everyone, go and check out that TEDx. It's such a beautiful talk. I highly, highly recommend it. I think everyone can connect with what you are saying in this talk. And until then, see everyone next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amik. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.